Distinguished Mr. John Carradine.
John, lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you, Vinny.
Thank you.
In a long time.
It has been a long
I think the last time we saw each other was in a film which, while it was not a horror film, was certainly a horror.
Yes, it was a long one, that's for sure. John, you know, you have been connected with the classics and with horror films, but I think one of the fascinating things to go back into is the background of horror in the theater. Tell us a little bit about
It
it.
goes a long way back.
Yes.
I did one of those original horror plays on Broadway with Elizabeth Bergner.
What was
The
that?
Duchess of Malfi,
Oh,
by
it's
John Webster, who was
her.
a contemporary of Shakespeare.
And the whole Jacobean theater actually was based on horror and revenge.
And then, of course, there's always a little touch of the Grand Guignol, too,
Yes.
which helps a bit.
Yes, it does. A few heads rolling on the floor. Never heard a picture before. I think one of the most fascinating ones was a surrealist film, really, that went way beyond its time. 20 years later, you know, I met the man who played in it, Conrad Veidt. He came up to the door one time to ask his way somewhere, and I nearly fainted. It was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. The second one you saw, the first one you saw
The
was...
first one I saw was The Golem.
Yes, tell us about that a little
I
bit.
don't remember it very much. I was only about 14 years old.
I remember it took place in Prague, in the ghetto, and the man was made of clay, and that he was born to slay. I think that's what got me to go to the theater. He was made to help the situation, but then he turned on the people. The Golem, a real frightener.
I think he was the first sort of robot character.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And he wore the Star of David on his shoulder.
You pushed it and he did things.
Look at that face. Look at that face. Oh,
There he
boy,
is.
what a Superman. Yes.
Didn't they push that star?
Yes, no. He took the star off of him, you see, and then that killed him. And, my Lord, people have been
He fell
doing that to
backwards.
me for years.
And they fall forward.
Yes. With that headpiece on, he had to turn back. Tell us something about John Barrymore, who was a great friend of yours. I only met him once, and I've always been
Really?
jealous of you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he had his own sense of the macabre.
Yes.
He owned a vulture, which he bought in Chile or in Peru. Peru, I think it was. And he used to sit on a perch in his home up on Tower Road.
Yeah.
And they would sit together, nose to nose. Barrymore thought it was love. Until he went on a wagon, and then the vulture would have nothing to do with him. You see, it was his alcoholic breath the vulture lacked.
I like that. He was a magnificent actor. His Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was a performance I'll never forget.
He wore no makeup.
He wore no makeup at all, only a
They
wig.
gave him a kind of conical head, but he didn't wear any makeup. It was all done by facial
There,
expression.
look, see, there he is now. He's taking the drink.
I used to rehearse this when I was 12 years old with a glass of water and vinegar and some soda bicarb. I'd foam up and I'd kick the bush and go through all the agony. I've been reading about Mansfield doing it.
It's divine. Now, let's see what he does here. He really, the hands, of course, played an enormous part, didn't they?
You know, he had short, stubby fingers, and he hated them. He was always dangling them so they'd look long and artistic.
That's true, because you'd never know that, would you? It looks
not
like
the way he used them.
tremendous long. Look at the face.
It's no makeup.
No. You know, so many of these pictures have been made and remade, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I think that we all remember, at least I remember, Chaney Sr.
Well, that
And Lawton was marvelous, but it didn't have the
I didn't
pathos,
see. I've
did it?
never seen anyone do it but Chaney, and I don't think I want to.
No, look at this fabulous scene where he's pushing that bell. You have a feeling of the weight.
I bet it
Yeah,
was heavy.
I bet it was, too. I remember working on that set years ago. Is that Mary Philbin or Patsy Ruth Miller? That's who it was.
Was that Patsy?
Patsy Ruth Miller. She played Esmeralda.
There was Mary Philbin in Phantom of the
In
Opera.
The Phantom of the Opera, you're absolutely
Rod
right.
LaRocque.
And Rod LaRocque, yes.
Very
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Oh, boy. John, you played in quite a few horror films.
No, it wasn't Brother Rock. It was Norman Carey.
It was Norman Carey.
Norman
yes,
Carey,
it was
yes,
indeed.
yes, yeah.
But, you know, you and I have never played in a horror film together.
No, and I've never played a monster.
I never played a monster.
I was offered one and turned it down.
Yeah.
I turned down Frankenstein.
Well, after doing...
Boris took it.
You're kidding.
I turned it down.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's...
They sent me out to the makeup department, and the makeup man started mixing up a bowl of plaster, and I, being a sculptor, knew just what he was up to.
Yeah.
Make a life mask. And I said, wait a minute, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
He said, this is, you play a monster. I said, oh, do I have any dialogue? He said, no. I don't have any dialogue? I said, no, you're just blunt. I said, this is not for me, and I walked out.
Oh, dear.
3 months later, they got Boris, and he took it.
It did
I never
something.
regretted it, and he never ceased to regret it.
But now you and I did do something sort of vaguely in common. I did the second Invisible Man picture, The Invisible Man Returns. And let's see, now, you know, in talking about the other...
I did a bit in the first one.
In the first one you
I
did.
played a
remember that.
Somersetshire yokel with a frowsy mustache, a muffler, and a bowler hat who goes to a phone booth and calls the police and says, I just saw the Invisible Man.
The Phantom of the Opera was played by several people, wasn't it? It was played by, let's see, of course, Lon Chaney Sr. to begin with. I think that there's Mary Philbin, look. See?
Yeah.
And she's going to take off the mask. Oh, I remember this
He's
scene.
sitting at the organ.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it was...
And he turns around, and your blood turns cold.
Oh, don't take it off, Mary. Don't. No, that's right. No, don't. Oh, she's going to do it. John, thank you for honoring the Horror Hall of Fame with your presence.
Well, then it's always an honor for me to be with you in Phoenix.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you again. And I'll have Zuckman show you to the door.
Oh, never mind the door. I'll just seep through the wall.
John? John? John?